You think your energy is private, personal, yours to give, yours to withhold. But what if it never was? What if the energy pulsing through your body isn't generated by you, but channeled through you? What if you're not the source, but the signal tower, a transmitter, a node, a beacon in a field of invisible frequencies? This changes everything, because if you're emitting a signal, someone, something is listening. And they're not just listening, they're tracking. From the moment you enter this world, you begin to broadcast. Through your emotions, your focus, your breath, your thoughts, you emit data, energetic data, not in binary code, but in vibrational patterns, subtle, layered, deeply revealing. Every fear spike, every shame loop, every longing you suppress, and every truth you swallow emits a signature. You think you hide well, but your energy doesn't lie, and they know that. You've been taught to protect your passwords, lock your phone, guard your online identity. But nobody told you to guard your emotional frequency, because that's where the real data lives. The archonic systems don't need surveillance cameras when your aura is an open signal. They don't need to read your thoughts. Your emotions speak louder. The anxiety you feel in crowds, it spikes your signal. The numbness after scrolling for hours, it drops your frequency into compliance range. The shame after saying too much, feeling too deeply, breaking character. That's a tag, a frequency stamp. It gets marked, indexed, logged. You are not paranoid. You are finally noticing. Because this isn't just spiritual, it's strategic. They've turned you into a transmitter and taught you to emit only what keeps their grid stable, low, predictable, manageable. You're allowed joy if it's quick and marketable. You're allowed anger if it's aimless. You're allowed rebellion if it's aesthetic. But raw, unfiltered energy, unapproved, unpredictable, untracked, that's dangerous. Because untracked energy can't be redirected. It can't be commodified. It can't be programmed. It becomes a glitch in the hive. And that's what you are, what you've always been, a signal that doesn't belong to the system, a pulse that remembers something older than all of this. But they've buried that knowing under deadlines, dopamine, and spiritual distraction. Because if you remembered your signal, if you truly felt its origin, you'd realize you were never meant to be harvested. You were meant to wake others up. They told you your energy was personal. They taught you to raise your vibration, clear your chakras, align your field. But they never told you what system you were aligning to. They said love and light, but gave you rituals that flattened your spectrum. They said cleanse your aura, but taught you to fear your own intensity. They said protect your energy, but made you think the threat was always outside you. It's not. The threat is the program. Let's expose it. The modern energy system you've been sold, from quick meditations to glow-up mantras, is a watered-down mimicry, a synthetic overlay of real spiritual circuitry. It's been corporatized, declawed, repackaged for comfort, filtered to fit your feed. Real energy work isn't relaxing, it's disruptive. It dredges up memories, fractures false beliefs, and unearths the buried signals you were trained to ignore. But that kind of work, it can't be monetized easily. It can't be done in 7 minutes. It can't be measured by likes. So they replaced it. They fed you concepts disconnected from origin, chakras without cosmology, breathwork without myth, light codes without source, and beneath that soft glow of wellness, a deeper pattern, predictability. These energy systems were designed not to liberate you, but to normalize you into manageable emotional ranges. Rage, too much. Mute it. Grief, disturbing. Transcend it. Desire, dangerous. Label it ego. This isn't balance. This is compliance. Because energy, real energy, doesn't flow in Instagrammable loops. It roars. It breaks timelines. It collapses false identities and rebuilds you with fire, not incense. And when you begin to remember that, when you feel your own voltage spiking without reason, breaking out of scheduled rituals, you're no longer broadcasting a stable signal. You become unreadable, untrackable, and that makes you a target. Because uncontained energy exposes the lie. It shows others that their exhaustion isn't natural, that their stagnation isn't failure, that their healing journey is a loop inside a prettier prison. But you're not here to loop. You're here to crack the grid. You don't need smoother affirmations. You need signal awareness. What are you broadcasting? And who tuned you to that frequency? Because unless you reclaim the dial, you're just another receiver for someone else's agenda. You've been transmitting your whole life, but did anyone ever teach you to listen? Not just to sounds or thoughts, but to the low hum beneath your skin, the current behind your actions, the resonance that either opens doors or locks them shut. Because here's the part they never teach in energy work. Your signal has a signature. And that signature is ancient, unmistakable, threatening, to the wrong eyes. This is why some rooms feel hostile before a word is spoken. Why some people flinch at your presence, even when you're silent. Why entire systems try to correct you without knowing why. It's not because you said something wrong. It's because your frequency contradicts the field. Your very being sends out a disruption, a spike in the system. And when the system is built on numbness, a soul in full signal reads as danger. So what do? They don't come at you with chains. They come with diagnostics, labels, therapies. You're too sensitive. You're too intense. You're difficult. You need regulation. Translation: you're not vibrating in a way we can control. So they feed you balancing routines, grounding exercises, soothing frequencies. None of it is evil, but it's aimed at containment, not awakening. Because the moment you go off script, when you stop filtering, stop explaining, stop shrinking, you emit raw code. And raw code, that's the real you. That's what draws others in silence. That's why people say, "You feel like a memory I forgot I had." Because you're not just a person. You're a reminder, a living signal from outside the algorithm, a thread back to source. And when you carry that thread unapologetically, you break spells just by existing. You don't need to convince. You don't need to argue. You just need to broadcast truth without flinching. Even if they call it arrogance, even if they call it delusion, even if it scares them. Because the moment you go silent to make them comfortable, your signal flattens, and they win, not by force, but by your consent. If this message didn't teach you something, maybe it reminded you. And if it did, let the signal echo. Subscribe, not for more videos, but for more keys. They couldn't stop your energy, so they learned to repurpose it, to turn you into the very thing you were here to disrupt, to convert your signal into compliance, not by force, by agreement. Let me show you how they did it. They didn't tell you your energy was sacred. They told you it was dangerous unless guided. So they gave you roles, identities, constructs wrapped in shiny language: the empath, the healer, the light worker, the divine feminine, the awakened masculine, each one a subtle trap. Because while they sound empowering, they come with scripts, unwritten codes for how you should act, feel, speak, respond. If you're high vibe, you must always forgive. If you're a healer, you must never show anger. If you're divine, you must suffer with grace, stay soft, absorb everything. You thought you were becoming more free, but you were just binding your frequency to a new loop. A prettier cage, a more spiritual prison, and it gets deeper because they didn't just shape how you see yourself, they shaped how others see you too. You started attracting people not because of who you are, but because of the energy role you unconsciously broadcasted. You became the fixer, the anchor, The one everyone turns to when they want to feel better, but never when they want to know you. And you allowed it. Because it felt like purpose. It felt like love. It felt like being on the path. But in truth, it was another system, another algorithm built to drain you. Because here's the catch. When your identity is tied to service, you'll exhaust yourself trying to earn your own worth. You'll give even when your body screams no. You'll teach when you need to be silent. You'll hold space for others, but never let anyone hold you. Why? Because you've confused being light with being empty. That's the trick. They inverted your energy from within. They didn't just siphon your light. They made you weaponize it against yourself. And once you're running on fumes, once your boundaries collapse, once your self-image depends on being good in the eyes of others, they've won. You're no longer a disruptor. You're a battery. And the worst part? They made you proud of it. So ask yourself, when did being powerful become synonymous with being quiet? When did your signal start serving their silence? And are you ready to cut the script before it consumes everything you are? There's a reason you feel watched even when you're alone. It's not paranoia, it's resonance detection. Because the surveillance isn't just cameras and cookies. It's biometric, neurological, energetic. Your devices are listening, not just to your words, but to your frequencies. Every time you tap, swipe, pause, scroll, you emit signals. Every biometric scan, fitness tracker, smart ring, voice assistant, retinal recognition, all of it trains AI on how you feel, not just what you do. But here's the deeper layer. They're not just training machines, they're mapping consciousness. By observing how your frequency changes in response to stimuli, what raises your heart rate, what calms your brain waves, what triggers dopamine spikes. They're building emotional fingerprints. And once they have that, they can predict your resonance. And if they can predict it, they can steer it. This is no longer about ads. This is about entrainment. Tuning you to a vibrational frequency that aligns with mass behavior models, not to enslave your body, but to standardize your signal. Because wild signals are unstable, and unstable signals break systems, so they regulate through tech, apps that nudge, notifications that interrupt, algorithms that throttle exposure to anything unapproved. You think it's random. It's not. Your feed is a mirror. Not of what you want, but of what keeps you contained. Too much rage, you get calming content. Too much truth, you're shadow banned. Too much power, you're flagged as disinformation. But who defines that? Who decides what's too much? Not humans, not anymore. The system is self-evolving, an archonic intelligence, refining itself on your behavior. And your energy is the raw material. So the more you comply, the more it learns to trap others like you. That's why spiritual content is exploding, but enlightenment is flatlining, because they've absorbed the language of awakening, but removed the frequency. It's not about what you believe, it's about what you broadcast. So the real question is, can you still emit your true signal in a system built to filter, flatten, and falsify it? Can you remain awake, not just in thought, but in resonance? Because soon, your energy won't just be tracked, it will be graded, ranked, throttled, punished, unless you become frequency sovereign, unless you learn to emit without consent, without apology, without algorithmic alignment. You're not here to trend, you're here to rupture the pattern. So here we are, at the boundary line, where signal becomes choice. Where you stop asking, what's wrong with me, and start asking, what's wrong with the frequency I've been trained to emit? Let's strip it bare. Your energy was never yours in the possessive sense. It's not a resource. It's not a fuel. It's a signature, a broadcast of what you truly are. And here's the final twist. That signal doesn't just go out into the world. It goes back into time. Every moment you choose truth over comfort, resonance over relevance, clarity over conformity, you're rewriting the code backward. You are sending signals into the past, to ancestors who dreamed of your awakening, to younger versions of yourself who begged the universe for a sign they weren't crazy. You are the sign. You are the disruption. The system thought it had you mapped, profiled, muted. But they never accounted for presence. They never expected someone who could stand still in a storm of distortion and choose to broadcast anyway. That's the power, not to escape the grid, but to vibrate differently inside it. To become untrackable, not because you're hidden, but because you are so fully present, they can't predict you. And when enough of us do that, when enough signals go rogue, break loops, refuse to self-edit, the grid doesn't collapse, it short circuits. And in that glitch, new reality codes are born. So here's your invitation, not to follow, not to subscribe, but to transmit. Let your energy speak a language older than control. Let your frequency cut through fog like lightning. You don't need permission. You are the permission. And now, the question they never wanted you to ask, the one that cracks the mask. What part of your energy do you censor the most? And who taught you to be ashamed of it? Type it, name it, release the hold. Let others feel your unfiltered resonance.